The sun set like molten gold across the quiet hills of Riverbend Valley, painting the sky in strokes of orange and violet. It was a small town, the kind where everyone knew everyone. The Perez family lived in a modest two-story house near the riverbank. It wasn't much, but to Miguel Perez, his wife Isabella, and their two children, Rosa and Lucas, it was home. Their lives were simple and content. Miguel was a carpenter, crafting tables and chairs that carried the scent of cedar. Isabella ran a small bakery, Heaven's Crumbs, where cinnamon rolls filled the air each morning. Rosa, 16, helped in the shop before school, while 10-year-old Lucas spent his afternoons by the river, floating the wooden boat his father had carved for him. Life was steady, calm, and filled with love, until the rain came. At first, it was gentle, the kind that painted the fields green. But as days passed, the drizzle became a downpour. The river, usually a quiet friend, began to swell and murmur. The ground grew heavy with water, and the sky never cleared. One evening, Isabella stood by the window, watching the storm. "It's been 2 weeks," she whispered. "The river's never been this high." Miguel tried to sound confident. "It'll pass, Issa. It always does." But Rosa had been reading the news on her phone. "Dad, nearby towns are flooding. They're asking people to evacuate." Miguel paused, uneasy. "We'll be fine," he said, though his voice wavered. "We just have to trust God." That night, as they prayed before bed, the wind howled outside. Isabella's words trembled as she prayed for their home to be safe. The next morning, the sky was still dark. Miguel opened the door and froze. The river had spilled over its banks. Water pooled around their fence, crawling closer by the minute. "Isabella," he shouted, "pack what you can." They worked quickly, throwing clothes, food, and important papers into plastic bags. Rosa grabbed her mother's Bible. Lucas snatched his wooden toy boat. Sirens began to wail in the distance. The road outside was already covered in murky water. Miguel ran to the van, but the engine sputtered and died. "We can't drive," he said. "We have to walk." Isabella clutched his arm. "Walk where?" He looked toward the hill where the old church stood. "There, to higher ground. We walk by faith, not by sight." Rain hammered their faces as they stepped into the flood. The water reached their knees, then their waists. Neighbors shouted, carrying children and helping the elderly. Miguel held Isabella's hand tightly, guiding her through the current. Rosa struggled under the weight of Lucas on her back, but she refused to stop. By the time they reached the church, they were soaked and trembling. Father Ramon opened the door wide. Come in, you're safe here." Inside, families huddled together. The pews were packed, and the air smelled of damp clothes and fear. Miguel sank onto the floor, holding his children close. "Everything's gone," he whispered. Father Ramon placed a hand on his shoulder. "Not everything. You still have each other, and you still have faith." The storm raged on for 3 days. The wind screamed through the cracks in the walls, and the church shook under the weight of rain. Isabella worked with other women to feed the children, baking flatbread from what little flour remained. Rosa kept the younger ones calm by telling stories. Lucas sat by the stained glass window, staring at the sky. "Mama," he asked softly, "is God angry with us?" She knelt beside him. "No, my love. Sometimes God lets the storm come so we can see how strong our faith really is." Miguel joined a group of men who ventured into the floodwaters to rescue others. They carried old people on makeshift rafts and brought food to those trapped in their homes. At night, he returned soaked and exhausted, but with quiet gratitude that they were still alive. On the 4th night, a leak appeared in the roof. The people gathered in fear, praying that the church would hold. Then over the roar of the rain, a sound echoed, a bell ringing, steady and clear. "Where is that coming from?" Rosa whispered. "It's the chapel bell," Father Ramon said. "Someone's ringing it to remind us hope still lives." They looked out and saw an elderly woman standing in the rain, pulling the bell rope with trembling hands. "As long as the bell rings," she cried, "we are still here." One by one, people began to sing hymns. Their voices rose above the storm. Fear turned to faith, and the church glowed with warmth that no flood could drown. When the rains finally stopped, the valley was unrecognizable. The Perez home was gone, swallowed by the river. The bakery lay in ruins. Miguel stood on the hill, staring down at what once was their life. He sank to his knees. Everything I built, gone. Isabella touched his shoulder. Not everything. Look, people still need help. Below them, others waved from rooftops and broken barns. The Perez family went down the hill to help. For weeks, they worked alongside neighbors, cleaning, rebuilding, and feeding those who had nothing left. Though they had lost their home, they became the heart of the recovery. Every morning, Isabella prayed for strength, and every night Miguel gave thanks for survival. One afternoon, as they cleared debris near where the bakery once stood, a man approached them. He wore a dark suit and carried a folder. "Are you the Perezes?" Miguel nodded. "I'm from the Riverbend Renewal Foundation." The man said, "Someone made an anonymous donation to rebuild your bakery." Miguel blinked. "Anonymous?" The man smiled. "They said they wanted to help the family that fed others when they had nothing." Tears filled Isabella's eyes. "God remembers us, Miguel. With the grant, they rebuilt Heaven's Crumbs. But this time, it wasn't just a bakery. It was a place of hope. Every morning, they gave free bread to those still struggling. The smell of warm loaves once again filled the valley. Letters began arriving. One read, "Your kindness gave me strength to start again. Thank you for walking by faith, not by sight." The family grew stronger. Rosa won a scholarship to study architecture, hoping to design homes that could withstand floods. Lucas joined the church choir, singing every Sunday with a voice full of joy. Miguel became a counselor for other families who had lost everything. "You can't always see the way forward," he told them, "but if you keep walking by faith, God will guide your steps." A year after the flood, the townspeople gathered by the river for a memorial. Father Ramon led the prayers. Miguel placed a wreath of flowers on the water. "You took much from us," he said quietly, "but you also gave us strength." As they turned to leave, Lucas pointed. "Papa, look!" Floating toward them was the little wooden boat Miguel had carved before the flood. It was scratched and water-worn but whole. Miguel picked it up, tears glistening in his eyes. "Even the river remembers mercy," he said. Time passed, and Riverbend Valley came back to life. New homes stood stronger. The church bells rang each morning in joy. In the bakery above the counter hung a wooden sign Miguel had carved by hand. "We walk by faith, not by sight." People came from nearby towns to hear their story and taste their bread. When asked how they managed to endure losing everything, Miguel would smile. "We didn't survive because we saw the way. We survived because we believed there was one." One evening, Miguel and Isabella stood by the river, watching the sunset reflect on the water. He took her hand. "Do you ever wish it hadn't happened?" She shook her head. "If we hadn't lost everything, we might never have found what truly matters." The church bell rang in the distance. Children laughed. The river flowed calmly again, carrying the memory of what was lost and the faith that had been found. And so the Perez family walked forward, not by sight, but by faith, knowing that even in the darkest floods, love and belief would always bring them home. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to subscribe for more inspiring family stories filled with faith, love, and the miracles that happen when we refuse to give up.